And welcome to Community Chat on 103.1 KSCW. Your host here, Gary Cohen, and our guest today, Joan Campbell, Community Affairs Coordinator for the Maricopa County Attorney's Office. Welcome to our show, Joan.
Well, thank you very much for having me. I appreciate this opportunity.
You're very welcome. There are a lot of different things going on that people in our community need to be aware of. We've heard the word scam before, and they come in so many different forms. You have some really important information to share with our audience. I'd like for you to begin with what you see as the most important item that folks need to be aware of.
I'm very grateful for this opportunity, and what you said is exactly correct. There's so many different types of scams. There's in-person, there are email, text messages, phone calls, there's military scams, the Medicare, even mortgage. But we're going to focus today on the most common trending scams that we're seeing that you need to be aware of, because if you're not educated, it's so easy to know. You never blame a victim, because these bad guys are smart. They know what they're doing. They have a script. It's their profession, and they use fear tactics. Sometimes they use being kind and grooming seniors into thinking that's their friend to take their money. And it just breaks my heart to think that someone that clipped coupons and worked hard their whole life loses all of their savings from a scammer. It's just deplorable. And the law enforcement cannot possibly go after and catch all of these people, because they're from all over the world, not just the United States, but Canada and other countries. So education is the most important tool we have. So I really appreciate this opportunity. And what I'll be reviewing is some of the trending things we're seeing, some of the scare tactics they use, and then prevention tips. So let's just start with what is trending right now. The number one loss from scams is a romance scam. And that doesn't always even need to be romance. You could call it a friendship scam, where if somebody gets a phone call, or let's say you're on social media and you meet somebody, and for whatever common topic, you say you all like horses and you're talking about that, and then a few months into the conversation, the person that you think is your friend will say, "Oh, I've run into a problem. My daughter is in the hospital and the bills are really high. Could you help us out?" But typically with the romance scam, and TV shows talk about this all the time, is that you'll meet someone on a dating website and they'll send flowers, write passionate letters or emails, and they really feel like you've made a connection. And maybe 4 or 5 months later comes the ask.
When people see these calls coming in like that, if you don't see a number that you recognize, should you just maybe let your machine pick up and not just go right in and pick it up?
Yes, and that is perfect advice. Don't answer calls you don't know. But unfortunately, how they trick us is that they will use an area code or maybe a number that you might think would be a doctor's office because it's local. And oddly enough, they can even spoof the number on your caller ID to be your own phone number. You get a call and you're thinking, I'm not calling myself, and you pick up. Or they also can change on your caller ID the name with the utility scam, where they call and they say that they're with APS or SRP. On your caller ID, it'll say Arizona Public Service. Why would you not think it's Arizona Public Service calling? And with that scam, they'll tell you that you missed a payment and they're going to turn off your power within an hour, and you need to pay immediately with a gift card. A lot of small businesses get that one, but individuals do too. But that's how tricky they are.
And these have been happening a lot from what you're hearing?
Yes, and it's really bizarre. Just like with crime, scams have a rhythm. So we might get a barrage of phone calls from saying that your computer has a virus. Then that will kind of fade off, and all of a sudden we'll get calls back saying it's IRS time. They go with what's going on. So, for example, when Publishers Clearinghouse is advertising that's their time to be looking out for the truck, well, then that's when they call and they say, "You have won, but don't tell anybody. It's a secret. We're going to show up on June 19th with a brand new Lexus and $1 million check, but don't tell your family. We want you to act surprised." So in anticipation of that, you do need to pay the car registration and the fees that come with that prize. So get us that money and we'll show up. And the people fall for it. because it's right during the time Publishers Clearinghouse is on TV.
When people get unfortunately sucked into that, is there any way for them to get the money back? Can they get help tracking it down and getting help on that?
Yes, and here is the most important. If you're writing anything down from this presentation, write down this website. It's www.ftc.gov for the Federal Trade Commission. It's very important that you make a report with the FTC because they will go after these criminals, and they have returned millions and millions of dollars to victims. That you may think, oh, it's futile, there's no point in me making a report. But if 2 years later they arrest them and they can seize that money, they will get it back to you. And if you go to their website, you can see crime prevention tips, how to make a report, what to do if you're the victim, and people get their money back. You know, not always, but the government's really doing a good job in helping victims.
You are listening to Community Chat on 103.1 KSEW. Your host here, Gary Cohen. Again, our guest is Ms. Joan Campbell, Community Affairs Coordinator for the Maricopa County Attorney's Office. Ms. Campbell, government scams. You know, I can't tell you how many times I've gotten the phone message from the IRS, and the words they use are pretty scary. You know, you could see how people would believe that they're getting this really serious phone call, and then you dial up the IRS and they go, that's no way, we would not reach you in that manner. But a lot of people don't realize that.
Of course not, because, you know, the government is such a big entity. Why would you not think somebody from the government might call you to help you fix a problem? But they always send letters first. And the problem with these scammers is, let's say that you are savvy and you get the call and they say, we're with IRS and you owe us money, and if you don't pay, we're going to have a U.S. Marshal come take you into custody. It's very scary. And then you start doubting yourself. And if you say, well, I didn't get a letter, well, they'll say, well, did you not have your right information on your tax return? They will have an answer for every question you have. And they have a script and they know what they're doing. But the government scams, in addition to the one you mentioned, which is the IRS, you owe money for taxes, no, they won't contact you by phone. But the one that is trending right now that started several months ago, and it's really picked up speed, and I've met several victims of this, is from the Drug Enforcement Administration. And what they're doing with that scam is you'll get a call and the man will say, this is Border Patrol Agent Morales. We just ended up stopping a car at the border. In the car were drugs, lots of money. We've made the arrest, and your personal information was in the car. It looks like they used your name to rent the car, and they obviously have your personal information. You are in danger of losing all of the money in your bank accounts. What we want you to do is we're going to work through this, transfer your assets into a secure bank that DEA can manage to protect you from these cartels. It's an elaborate scheme. It's very scary. They use very official names. You don't want to be in trouble with the cartels. You don't want to be in trouble with the government. And people transfer their money and it's completely gone. So if you get a call from any law enforcement agency, you have the benefit of time to say, I'll call you back, and you look up the phone number.
Would this include when sometimes a group saying that they're from the Police Benevolent Association? You need to be careful about even these fundraiser calls, right?
Absolutely. So many of those phone calls for fire and police are not legitimate. They might give 1% of the money they donate to a law enforcement agency, but sometimes they just take the money. If you are interested in assisting law enforcement in Arizona, the go-to agency is the Phoenix 100 Club. They are the hub, and if an officer's hurt or a firefighter, they take care of that family, whether with services or with funds. So be very leery of any fundraising. I've seen people that have got caught up in those pretend law enforcement, and they give away money that will never go to law enforcement or military.
And of course, scams come in different forms, not just phone calls, emails, texts. I mean, how can people safeguard? I mean, if you're getting this text that comes in and your phone doesn't have the technology that other phones have. I mean, once you open something up, it creates a whole problem, right?
It does. And then you need to check with your carrier or make sure that your phone doesn't have a virus. The main thing, like you said, with text messages, which I appreciate you bringing that up, is that we're getting a barrage. The bad guys know that we are getting wise to the phone calls. So the most common one we're getting, in February, we had the MVD fake text. I don't know if you got that one. Mm-hmm. Text saying, this is the Arizona Motor Vehicle Department. Click on this link to update your information. All that does is put malware on your device. So, be very careful. And the other thing is, I don't order on Amazon. I just don't. I go to the store and I get text messages about tracking my Amazon package. If I was to click on that link, I would put malware on my phone. So all the businesses, FedEx, Amazon, UPS, they've put out alerts that if you get a message for them to track your package, it could be a trick.
And of course, with emails, there was one time we had an email from a bank. It looked just like their logo, but it wasn't them. You really have to be aware when even you're getting an email that it's legit.
So true. If you have a link, and I was talking to a man this week that said that his friends will send him an email that says, click on this link, it's a funny story. It's like, I don't click on any links anymore because you don't know if that email's from them. There was a church where the pastor had all of his emails hacked, and someone sent a mail out to the entire congregation saying, we have a situation at the church. We really need you to go out and buy gift cards to help us with this fundraising project. Well, the people in the congregation thought it was legitimate because it came from his email. He'd been hacked. So you really have to vet almost everything. It's so sad.
I always get concerned when you get an email and it's this long chain attached. If you're responding, someone in the middle of that chain might not want that person to get your email address if you're responding.
It's true.
What else can you tell us?
Well, the other annoying trend that I'm sure every single person in the valley is, we were just talking, had 2 or 3 of these calls, it's about the auto warranty. And what's scary about that is that they have researched your information. They know that what year, you drive a 1999 Toyota and that it needs repair and you need an auto warranty, but they're just trying to get your personal information. So please don't answer any of those auto warranty phone calls. And the other phone call that's trending, and what I would suggest to people, whatever I'm discussing today, if you have a question, just Google or look it up. You can find news stories about it. It's the child in custody or the child that's been kidnapped. And there's a really good video from a news channel that explores how that works. I met a lady in Glendale recently that had it happen to her, and she got a phone call, and the man said, hello, Mrs. Jones, we have your daughter Amanda kidnapped. We're driving around the city of Glendale with her in the back of our car. You can hear a girl screaming, and if you don't pay us our ransom, we're going to kill Amanda. You have an hour. Do not hang up this phone. You got to keep us on. Get to the bank, or actually wire the money, and do it now. So her and her husband were just distraught. They went to a grocery store to wire the money, but there was a long line. And she had the guy on the phone, and she was very anxious and very nervous. Well, while they were waiting, the husband saw someone they knew in the store and used their phone to call their daughter's workplace, and she was at work. But the kidnappers had a very detailed plan. We're in a car. We have a car behind us. They knew information they had vetted from social media. So it sounded very legitimate, and that is trending. The federal government's working it hard, and they're saying that it is coming from Mexican jails where they have access to phones and computers, and they can research it and get all the details. And it's very hard for law enforcement. They are investigating it. But who would guess? If you got that call, it'd be terrifying.
Do you offer any classes for people? I know things in the last year, people were not able to meet in person, but there were a lot of Zoom classes out there. Do you offer any way for people to get a full class on this?
Well, if there's an organization that wants us to speak, we can come out and give a class in person. But we also are recording these topics into a PowerPoint video that's going to be on the Maricopa County website, so they could just look online. We've done one on graffiti. We did one on travel safety and on scams. And coming up, we're going to be doing it on substance abuse, not leaving your pet in your car. But we are doing a series of videos. But the best is for us to either be invited to a club or a group, because what that does is allow us to talk and exchange ideas and safety tips and hear from the public. But if they just don't have that capability, there are online.
Well, this being an at-risk community for a lot of this that we've been talking about, it'd be a pretty good idea for people to hop on board and get as much Education about all of this is possible. Education is power. Is there anything that you would like to add as we wind down the show?
Don't pick on victims. I've been to groups that'll say, well, they should have known better. But these bad guys are that smart. And even if you are aware of them, if they catch you off guard, it's really easy to fall victim. So be kind to yourself. If you're nervous, take a breath. Tell them you'll get back in touch. Ask a friend what they think, and don't let them bully you into paying money. And in 100%, we never say 100%, if someone asks you to pay anyway with a gift card, it is a scam. Rarely do we say 100%, but no legitimate business wants a gift card. Gift cards are for gifts.
You have been listening to Community Chat on 103.1 KSCW. Your host here, Gary Cohen, and our guest has been Joan Campbell, Community Affairs Coordinator for the Maricopa County Attorney's Office. We'll speak to you next time.